हाँ जी, मिकी आर्थर साहब का एक इंटरव्यू आया है जो उन्होंने दिया है विजडन को। बेसिकली अपेरेंटली उन्होंने एक इंटरव्यू दिया है जिसमें उन्होंने वर्ल्ड कप में पाकिस्तान की जो नाकामियां हैं उसके ऊपर उन्होंने थोड़ी सी रीजनिंग देने की कोशिश की है, थोड़ी सी बात करने की कोशिश की है कि क्या वजूहात पॉसिबली हो सकती हैं कि पाकिस्तान की इतनी मिजरेबल परफॉर्मेंस वर्ल्ड कप में आई। और सरप्राइजिंगली उन्होंने दोबारा रीआइट्रेट किया है कि पाकिस्तान की जो डिफीट है वर्ल्ड कप में, जो इतनी मिजरेबल परफॉर्मेंस हुई है, वो बेसिकली इसलिए हुई है क्योंकि पाकिस्तान के लिए कोई सपोर्ट नहीं थी वर्ल्ड कप के दौरान। देयर वाज नो सपोर्ट फॉर पाकिस्तान बिकॉज the fans who wanted to go and watch the World Cup taking place, they were definitely not given visas. तो ये तो खैर एक चीज़ है जिसके बारे में पहले भी मैं बात कर चुका हूँ। मिकी आर्थर को चाहिए कि मतलब अपनी नाकामियाँ जो हैं वो बिला वजह फ़ैन सपोर्ट पे तो ना डाले, क्योंकि ये अब सेकंड टाइम मिकी आर्थर ये रीआइट्रेट कर रहे हैं कि ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ फैन सपोर्ट पाकिस्तान फेल्ड। And fan support really does matter when we talk about Pakistan team, because Pakistan team is a team which definitely does require that motivation and that fan support around it, without which their performance, their good performance, ceases to exist. It almost seems like he's giving off that impression, which is basically not the case historically speaking. If you take a look at Pakistan, whenever Pakistan has toured India, there is always lack of support for Pakistan over there. How often have you come across matches that Pakistan has played in India in which Pakistan is playing against India, and if a Pakistani batsman is going to hit a boundary, or if he's going to go ahead and hit a six, or perhaps a Pakistani bowler is going to take a wicket, the crowd is going to be like yay, yay, yay. No, the crowd is absolutely silent. That's the thing about that country. एक यही बात है इंडिया की, एक यही बात है कि वहां कोई भी मैच अगर पाकिस्तान की टीम खास तौर पे खेल रही हो तो जोन सा मर्जी दौर हो, जोन सा मर्जी टन्योर हो, जिसकी भी हुकूमत हो, ठीक है, जिसकी भी हुकूमत इंडिया में हो, आज मोदी की हुकूमत है, कल हो सकता है किसी और की हो, या 90s में तो मोदी की हुकूमत नहीं थी ना, ठीक है, तो क्या होता था 1996 का क्वार्टर फाइनल सबको याद है जो पाकिस्तान ने इंडिया के खिलाफ खेला था, वो जब आमिर सुहेल मार रहा था हर जगह पे, तो क्राउड तो बिल्कुल ऐसे जैसे कि सो गया हो, बिल्कुल खत्म, क्राउड है ही नहीं, जैसे कुछ साउंड नहीं आ रही थी। फॉर द फर्स्ट 10 overs there was pin drop silence in the crowd in the 1996 quarterfinal match. Same goes the case for that, that match, those two deliveries that were bowled by Shoaib Akhtar, in which he got Sachin Tendulkar out and Rahul Dravid out, back to back. Crowd was absolutely silent. I mean, this never takes place. This never happens. Seldom it happens, but fine, the crowd does cheer for teams, but definitely not for Pakistan. They're never going to do that. Even if there is some Pakistan support over there, given that it's a World Cup, that's not going to make much of a difference, because that entire stadium in which that match was taking place, that stadium, this stadium which is called Narendra Modi Stadium, it has a capacity crowd of 130,000 people who can sit in this stadium. So any Pakistan crowd that is actually going to go, how many Pakistanis are actually going to be able to go and watch that game if visas were to be granted to Pakistanis? How many would have been able to go and watch that game? 5,000? 10,000? Can't be that the crowd would be like, more than 10,000. Can't be. Yet still, I mean, it's a huge ground. And that's the thing of it. No matter what the crowd might be, no matter how much crowd, no matter how much crowd you would want to see, it's never crowd support is never the case when it comes to playing good cricket. Do you think Micky Arthur, who is the coach of Derbyshire right now, do you think that crowd support really does matter when we speak about playing good cricket? So he makes it look like as if playing good cricket for Pakistan Demonstrating good cricket or playing good cricket is directly proportional to crowd support. Crowd support matters. That's what Micky Arthur says. So that's just like a lame excuse for his inability to coach this Pakistan team this time around. And the real reason definitely was that he was occupied in two roles, which was one was at Derbyshire, and the other one, of course, was this assignment with Pakistan. He did not want to give up that role of Derbyshire. That this is something that he has spoken about in his interview as well. That he did not want to give up his role with Derbyshire because this role with PCB was always going to be very, very insecure. It was not, with PCB, whoever is working with PCB, no matter who it might be, even if it is the best coach in the entire world, Grant Flower, or, name any coach in the world, if that coach is going to work with PCB, then his job is going to be very, very insecure. And to work with PCB, a role which is as insecure as it always has been, it was more than understood that Micky Arthur was not going to leave his job with Derbyshire, because after all, this is his livelihood. The problem is that Pakistan parted ways with Micky Arthur at a very, very wrong time, in 2019. They say that Pakistan's performance in the 2019 World Cup was not at par with what was expected. They did not qualify for the semi-finals in 2019 under Sarfaraz Ahmed's captaincy, but they were close. This time around, the performance of Pakistan team in the World Cup was far worse than the performance Pakistan displayed in the 2019 World Cup, because Pakistan almost made it to the semi-final in 2019. Had it not been for that, that rain-affected match against Sri Lanka in 2019, Pakistan would have been, because with Sri Lanka in 2019, Pakistan would have won. And for that matter, Pakistan would have been able to have more points than New Zealand, and would have easily been able to go at least into the semi-finals of the 2019 World Cup. But following that, Micky Arthur was quickly sacked. And then Misbah-ul-Haq, who had freshly left cricket without any coaching experience, without any prior experience, without any credibility for being a head coach, without any qualifications, just joins in the team as a head coach out of nowhere. So that is something which was like, that led to Pakistan's downfall. Certainly, we should not have parted ways with Micky Arthur in the first place in 2019 and brought in Misbah-ul-Haq in his place. That entire decision of bringing in Misbah-ul-Haq and replacing Micky Arthur was just politically motivated. Whereas Micky Arthur's own performance with the team, his coaching stint, was not all that bad at all. Pakistan, with Micky Arthur in the dugout, had won the 2017 Champions Trophy. I'm not saying the credit goes entirely to Micky Arthur, but some bit of credit should go to the coach, because he was part of the dugout. That chemistry between Micky Arthur and these players who were developing into personalities, so-called personalities, which they have now become, and you can see what kind of personalities we have in the Pakistan team. But these were young players. They were open to change. So I agree with Micky Arthur on this, that back then in between 2016 and 19, these were young players. They were ready to make their mark in the Pakistan team. And they were they were flexible, they were open for change. So in other words, their attitude was very cooperative. This time around, you had, those young players who were playing for Pakistan when he left in 2019 now had developed into personalities and mature cricketers. So after 4 years, they were not that open and they were not flexible, and perhaps there was something in the way that was not making those players accept any different kind of strategy that Micky Arthur was going to bring about. Why Micky Arthur was not able to cope up with these players this time around? Micky Arthur क्यों नहीं इन प्लेयर्स से वो काम ले सके, वो जो भी डिफरेंट चीज़ वो करना चाहते थे, या जो भी चेंज, whatever change he wanted to bring about or instigate within this Pakistan team, why was he not able to do it effectively? Most certainly because Micky Arthur, his mind was involved in two different directions. He was, before the World Cup would start, he was full time involved with Derbyshire. And in his interview, he has categorically stated that he was never going to compromise on his Derbyshire role. Had it been a situation in which we would have not let Micky Arthur go away and bring the inexperienced coach in the likes of Misbah-ul Haq in his place, if we would have continued with Micky Arthur, things would have been a bit different. Micky Arthur would have stayed around. He would have not gone ahead and joined Derbyshire, because after Pakistan he joined Sri Lanka. With whatever cricket was left in Sri Lanka, he coached them for a couple of months, and then of course he moved to Derbyshire permanently, because he has to do something for a living. This is his livelihood after all. So the reason why there was this gap of communication between Micky Arthur and the players, which he's not accepting, of course, but I'd like to address Micky Arthur over here directly, is because of these two roles that Micky Arthur had. Coaching Derbyshire and then coaching Pakistan team. Of course, during the World Cup, he was full-time involved with PCB in Pakistan. He was definitely involved with Pakistan team. But, what about all that time before the World Cup? Was he with the team? He was an online coach. He'd like to disagree with that. But yes, he was an online coach. He vehemently wants to disagree with the notion that, he was an online coach. No, he says that he was always synchronized with whatever is going on in the Pakistan team. He knew exactly what is going on. He used to wake up early in the morning and do PCB work. Then he used to get involved in the Derbyshire work. Then in the evening, get back to PCB work. Doesn't work like that. You have to give your full-time dedication and attention to Pakistan while you're the head coach of an international team. You can't just do Derbyshire and an international team at the same time. Why did Micky Arthur do that in the first place? That's not Micky Arthur's fault. That's PCB's fault. Why? Because PCB has always preferred favorism. They favored coaches. They run on nepotism, PCB. And bringing in Misbah in the place of Micky Arthur was the biggest mistake. Had it been a situation in which we would have not let Micky Arthur leave Pakistan, the situation would have been very, very different. He would have stayed with Pakistan. His dedication, his commitment with Pakistan would have continued. And because we parted ways with him, whereas at that time in 2019 he really did want to continue with Pakistan, he did not want to leave. But once Misbah-ul Haq was determined, he was brought in as the head coach, and he was also the chief selector. Due to whatever pressures and whatever politics you wanted to instigate, Misbah-ul Haq came in and he destroyed Pakistan cricket for good. And then Micky Arthur, he left, went through a couple of tough months, but then he got a contract with Derbyshire. Now Pakistan came calling again, and they said, "We want you back, Micky, please come back when the government changes." And Najam Sethi comes in and said, "Hey, I appointed you over here. I want you back over here." Micky Arthur says, "You know what? Not now. Too late. I'm not giving up Derbyshire. पाकिस्तान को मेरी ज़रूरत है, ठीक है, मैं पाकिस्तान को कोच करूंगा, लेकिन इस तरह से करूंगा कि मेरे ड्यूल रोल्स होंगे, फुल टाइम कमिटमेंट, और मेरी प्रायोरिटी इज गोइंग टू रिमेन विद डर्बीशायर. माई कमिटमेंट इज गोइंग टू रिमेन विद डर्बीशायर. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू लीव डर्बीशायर." यही तरीका है पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट बोर्ड से डील करने का. इन लोगों के साथ यही हुआ है जो ये डिजर्व करते हैं. ये पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट बोर्ड की मैं बात कर रहा हूं. ऐसे ही होना चाहिए पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट बोर्ड के साथ. अब मिकी आर्थर को ब्लेम नहीं कर सकते.